like to introduce next to you someone who probably needs no introduction to many of you, or to many of us, Chase Iron Eyes. He is a citizen of the Standing Rock Nation. Chase has dedicated his career to ending the legal and economic oppression of Native nations and their citizens by implementing self-determination on and off the reservations. Chase also founded LastRealIndians.com, which helped lead an effort on behalf of the Oceti, Sakowin, did I say right? Yeah. Sioux Nation to regain control of PeSla, one of their most sacred sites in the Black Hills. Chase's organization is largely responsible for all humanitarian aid supplies to the NoDAPL Liberation Camp. Chase is a graduate of Strum College of Law at the University of Denver. Please welcome one of our great leaders, Chase Iron Eyes.
Thank you to everybody. This is an amazing event, amazing energy. I know that everybody who's made their way here is not a passive observer of the crisis that we find ourselves in. I know that you all have leadership capabilities, you all have your own networks. You came here to see what's next, to see how we respond to what appears to be a very real, some would say already complete, hijacking and takeover of our very democracy by the forces and institutions manifested by the corporate state. For our people, that's over the last 500 years. For everybody else, the last couple thousand years. It's very important to note that colonization isn't about white people colonizing brown and black people, although there are aspects of that in our truthful recollection of history. But the colonization we talk about is the one that applies to all of us, the one that separated our spirits from our minds, the one that separated our meaning from our labor, indeed separated human beings from their food sources, from their sacred relationships with the lands, with the waters, with the sites, with the sacred beings of the universe. Every one of you in this room descend from original, free and independent peoples and nations who are designed to respect those sacred relationships. Never forget that, because that's the fight that we find ourselves in right now in Standing Rock. Have you all heard of what's going on out there at Standing Rock? So, I recently ran for United States Congress. I was defeated by a Trump surrogate, and immediately following my defeat, I joined the resistance at the front lines. That's how our organization came to supply about 70% of all logistics and humanitarian aid to the camp. To this day, thank you. And we were only able to do that because of the generosity of everybody out there who donates, who really gives from their heart, from a place of compassion, because they know our struggle for clean water is righteous. When we talk about the privatization of water, it's a very real thing. Water is a basic human right. Not only is, that's right. Not only is water sacred, but water is the foundation of all real economic value globally, across the globe. So to this day, there have been about 600 arrests in North Dakota of people who have made the decision to sacrifice their liberty, their lives even, and their limbs in pursuit of liberty, freedom, justice, and equality. Not only is that struggle about a people's right to clean water, but that struggle is about the very sanctity of the American Constitution and whether or not we still have the right to speak freely, the right to peaceably assemble. Right now, the Army Corps of Engineers is trying to prescribe what they call free speech zones. That's right. Well, we've got news for them. The entire country is a free speech zone. So that struggle will continue, and we will win, but it's going to get even more serious with a Trump presidency. And that's why we all came, because we feel a sense of urgency. Everything that happens, every time we as human beings attempt to transcend the oppression of our spiritual nature, we are following the inspiration of the powers of creation. And we need to name this, because they would have you think that we should be divided by race, color, creed, sex, gender, any other kind of synthetic classification. But when you take a look at it, our enemies, if we can call it that, if we can name the set of institutions that is going to be represented by a Trump presidency and a Republican-controlled Congress. It is too big to fail finance. It's too big to fail extraction. It is big pharma. It is a corporatocracy, a set of institutions of law, of economics, of politics, of media, of education. It is the house of cards that is propped up. It's the set of values, the very advertising industry that shoots 3,000 images at you and your children every single day, telling you what's cool, what's appropriate in this society, telling us what to buy, what to consume, and indeed controlling the environment within which we have to trade our labor to procure some of those human necessities. I know you all feel this. It's just a matter of diagnosing it and appreciating it and looking it in the eye and being able to transcend it and really to unite. That's what's going to happen under a Trump regime. We are not under Trump's regime. This is still our country. And right now we have to make a determination to be courageous rather than fearful. When we take a look at all the demographics which Trump has publicly indicated that he would antagonize, that includes everybody in the Occupy movement, everybody who descended from the Battle of Seattle, everybody in labor, everybody who stood up for a $15 minimum wage, everybody in the feminist movement, and everybody give all the women who organized today's historic and monumental march a round of applause, please. Because truly, we have to do our part. I don't understand feminism the way a woman would understand feminism, but I know that the deconstruction of Western heteropatriarchy and all of its symptoms of objectification, misogyny, the sexualization of women. I've had to think very strongly about these things since I have daughters. And I am on a path of liberation in that respect. So I don't pretend to know everything about that, but I know that I have to be aware of it and I have to support it. All of those demographics. We're all at risk, and unless we come together, we will fail. Because the enemy is well capitalized. They control all means of the flow of information, from mainstream media to education to what gets attention, and every movement that we've named, including Occupy, including Black Lives Matter, maybe even including the Standing Rock NoDAPL struggle, is at risk, is constantly at risk of being subsumed by those forces, that logic of capital, that set of institutions that creates currency out of thin air now. That set of institutions that is abstracting the human being from its relationships with the natural universe. That is the enemy, if we were to name the enemy. And that enemy is a couple thousand years in the making. It's not easily defeated. But at every turn, it's our natural inclination, our spiritual duty to stand up to that oppressive regime that is at work around the globe, oppressing not only every human, but every living being, commodifying every resource that our ancient worldviews saw as living, breathing relatives. That is the strength of what we are up against. But I know we have to believe that we are capable. We have to believe that we can rise with the sun and feel its love, feel the embrace of the winds, listen to the songs of the birds, see the movements of the stars, and reunite your spirit with our natural surroundings. This is the challenge that Native nations have had. We have provided the spiritual foundation for what is going to be the economic and political liberation of America. That's our role. We take that role very, very seriously. We understand we have an entire set of cosmologies. We civilize this whole hemisphere. 10 to 20,000 years, nobody knows how long our civilizations have been here. But what we know is that we have not been appreciated. But that's changing. The whole world is changing. And right now, we have to build bridges. We can't build walls. We can't see each other as different. We need to respect our differences, but we can't see ourselves as being able to exist in these vacuums anymore. We have to unite all of our struggles. We do not have time. we just simply don't have time. That's why out there at Standing Rock, there are 500 people ready to be arrested. There are people who are laying it on the line to defend our constitutional rights. There are people who understand that we all have to take a leadership role in the unarmed and non-violent. And what I mean by that is we cannot be the initiators of aggressive violence. If we stick to these principles, I believe that we can have a revolution. And we need that in our country right now because the corporate state inflicts violence around the world. The corporate state indeed has inflicted violence and expropriated and dehumanized and objectified and commodified an entire globe. That regime, that corporate state knows exactly what to do with people who arm themselves, people who are violent, people who seek out violent means to assert their concerns. You end up dead or in jail. That's what happens to our movement if we go there. But we need to understand that peace, when we're peaceful, it's not passive. The power of peace is not passive at all. The power of peace doesn't back down in the face of rubber bullets, less lethal bullets, mace, drones, helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft, dog attacks, corporate mercenaries, a collusion between law enforcement, the National Guard, the governor, the legislators, the media. All those sets of institutions are colluding with each other against, a successfully racialized fight in North Dakota. But those same forces are going to be at work against your constitutional rights, your civil rights, your human rights. Unless we wake up and stay woke, stay vigilant, don't back down an inch. Because the very fate and fabric of our democratic reality is at stake right now. And we have made that determination to stand up and to never back down because our children's future literally depends on it. The stakes are high. They are life and death. This was much easier when I was running for Congress. But now, in the front line, in the face of all that violence, the power of peace tells us to stand in our own spiritual dignity and to not back down to the forces of oppression that have no spiritual or legal authority to work over and against us. We know that our cause is righteous and that our cause is going to help liberate this entire country. So let's stay with it. I want to thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
We need to be able to draw a line. If we're going to unite with people in movements who want to support the Democrats, or maybe who are former Trump supporters, right? Or say a whole bunch of things we don't agree with, we need to be able to draw a line at a place that also makes the movement effective. And not subordinate the needs of our struggles against Trump, the needs of the struggles of immigrants or women against Trump, to what the Democratic Party finds acceptable.
We have the numbers, we have the solutions, we have the power. It's time to get organized. When we stand up with the power that we do have, We can create an America and a world that works for all of us, that puts people, planet, and peace over profit. This is the time to get organized around the issues, to get organized in our communities, and to get organized fundamentally, politically, because that's where we come together to achieve critical mass.
The moment we defy power, we are victorious. The moment we stand alongside the oppressed and accept being treated like the oppressed, we are victorious. The moment we hold up a flickering light in the darkness for others to see, we are victorious. The moment we thwart the building of a pipeline or a fracking site, we are victorious. And the moment those in power become frightened of us, we are victorious. I do not fight fascists because I will win. I fight fascists because they are fascists. Thank you.
Sisters and brothers, are you prepared? First, I want to thank you for your patience and for coming down to DC for a very, very important demonstration. And welcome to Inaugurate the Resistance. My name is L.J. Hawkins. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, one of the co-sponsors of this event. And as you can see, we have a very distinguished group of thinkers, of activists, organizers on the stage. I'll just give a few opening remarks before we get to the meat of this event. As we prepare to go back home, we have to figure out a way, how do we organize and mobilize and agitate now that we will be leaving DC and beginning the Trump presidency. This struggle is not just about Donald Trump, but in fact, this is a struggle against the oligarchs of Wall Street and the system of capitalism and all that it breeds: racism, poverty, war, and environmental destruction. I'm reminded that this year is the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's Why I Oppose the Vietnam War. And in that speech, he did something that was very significant. He, in many ways, created a marriage between the civil rights movement and the anti-Vietnam War movement that was crucial in the defeat of U.S. imperialism in Vietnam and bringing home the troops and tying the struggle against war abroad and the war at home and the question of poverty and income inequality and civil rights. Today, we are faced now with a very grotesque version of neoliberal capitalism under Donald Trump. And I certainly won't be calling him president. I'll call him what his mama called him, Donald. How do we build our mass movements, and what do they look like? Today you will hear folks that will give you prime examples of the work in Seattle of Sharma Sawant, the Socialist City Councilor. You will hear the analysis of Chris Hedges, raising the question and the specter of how dangerous this administration is and how do we engage in a fight back. The questions of, do we reform the Democratic Party, or do we begin a process of building our own political party of the working class and poor and the most oppressed? And ultimately, how do we build a resistance movement that at its core is rooted among the working class and the poor, not just in DC, but in every enclave of American society, in our cities, in our suburbs, in our urban centers, in our universities, in our workplace, among our unions and among our social justice and civic organizations, and even in our churches. And how do we build a bridge to those who voted for Trump, many of them the victims of neoliberal capitalism, who are itching for some change. We must create a wall of resistance and a powerful bridge where we can reach out our hands to them and say, our enemy is not the immigrant or the low-wage worker or the LGBTQAI person. Our enemy sits at one Wall Street. They're the ones who have the corporate lobbyists who bought off both political parties, Democrats and Republicans. The enemy is the one that's sending bombs to displace and dispossess working people in the poor of this planet. They're the ones that are fracking the land, and in many ways violating the land, sacred land. So today, I thank you for coming out. We will begin our program. Let's get ready. Let's prepare ourselves, because when we go back home, the real work begins.
My name is Darryl Moak, and I am one of the national co-chairs of the U.S. Green Party and also the chair of the D.C. Statehood Green Party. And so we are honored to be able to host you here in our great state of Douglas Commonwealth, also sometimes known as New Columbia. We are proud to have you here with us. We're proud to have you march with us. We are proud to stand with you and beside you as we continue to make sure that this nation that we live in and the world that we live in is exactly what we need and want it to be. And so we are glad to be a part of this with you, as is the U.S. Green Party, glad to be a part of this process and to work with you and to stand with you.